Good morning, everyone. I'm Selenia Romani, and I'm going to talk today about the Victorian Age, especially let's say, the historic part. So, the part about economy, about politics, and about society. So, the Victorian Age took his name from Queen Victoria. Um, Basically, because Queen Victoria's coronation is marked the beginning of the Victorian Age. So the Victorian Age started basically around 1837. We can divide the Victorian Age or Victorian era into three parts: the early Victorian, the middle Victorian, and the late Victorian period. So let's start with the first one. The first one is the early Victorian period, um, which of course started in 1837 with Victoria's coronation. Um, in the 1840, Queen Victoria marries her cousin Prince Albert, and um, and they stayed together for a really long time until Prince Albert's death in 1861. So those the ages between 1830s and 1848, more or less, um, so on really big industrial development, but also the worst working conditions, especially for women and children who were forced to work both in mines and factories. So in 1842, um, there was the Mines Act. So the Mines Act um, signed a moment where it was established that no kids or women should have been employed in mines. Then we have in 1845 there was a really great famine in Ireland, which leads to the abolition of the Corn Laws of the 1816. So the Corn Laws were abolished in 1846, and this helped Ireland a lot with the famine that was going on in that period. Then we have in 1847 the 10 Hours Act, which is another really important act for workers of that time, which said that no more that workers couldn't work more than 10 hours each day, both workers, men and women. That the early Victorian period, was also signed by the birth of Chartism, which is a workers' movement. And in this workers' movement asked for a charter for social reforms. This charter was called the People's Charter, and it was presented 4 times, but it has been rejected each time. It was basically a charter with demands and contained 6 different points. The votes for all males, an annually elected parliaments, payment for members of the parliament so that also working class men could become members of parliament, the secret of voting, the abolition of the property qualification for candidates seeking election, and the establishment of electoral districts equal in population. But unfortunately, as I've said, these people charters has always been rejected every time. Let's move on to the mid-Victorian or middle Victorian period, which was signed especially in 1851 by the Great Exhibition. But I'm going to talk about the Great Exhibition later. So between 1853 and 1856, we can see the Crimean War, which is a dispute between Russia and Turkey over the borders between them. And of course, the British Empire took the side of Turkey alongside with France, because they were both quite scared by Russia's power of that period. Then we can see in between 1857 and 1859 the Indian Rebellion or Indian Mutiny, because this rebellion was basically a mutiny of the East India Company's army, and the mutineers were Indian soldiers who wanted to fight the British rule. So from that moment on, the regulations and the rules made in India were all made by Queen Victoria herself. Then in 1866, we have a Sanitary Act which improved the local condition of sewers, water, and street cleaning. And in 1867, we can see there was a second reform bill which extended the vote to urban working class men. One of the biggest achievements of the mid-Victorian period was in 1870, and it was the Education Act, which provided and signed the beginning of mass education. Then we can move on to the late Victorian period. We can find in 1871 the legalization of workers' union. The unions were the ones that in Italian we call sindacati, and it has been a great achievement for workers of that period. In 1876, Queen Victoria was nominated Empress of India. And then we have two main wars that we call Boyers' Wars. The first one between 1870 and 1871, and the second one between 1899 and 1902. In the first one, the Boers, which were the descendants of the Dutch settlers in South Africa, won and obtained the independence for the Republic of Transvaal. But the settlers lost the second war and became part again of the British Empire. Then we can find the third Reform Bill in 1884, which extended a suffrage to all men workers. And of course, we have another big achievement in 1892 with the Independent Labour Party's foundation. And of course, in 1897, the Women's Social and Political Union, which was a newspaper, and the leaders, of course, were Emmeline and Christabel Pankhurst, which were the first suffragettes. Okay, I would like to focus a bit on the Great Exhibition. The Great Exhibition of 1851 was held in the Crystal Palace in London, and it displayed 200,000 objects from all over the world, underlying Britain's industrial trading power. There were, in this exhibition, you could find everything from steam locomotives to a stuffed elephant, as you can see here in the picture. And this elephant came from India. And then we can see, of course, one of the biggest trait of Victorian Age was the great industrial development. But also this industrial development led to the exploitation of women and children in factories. The condition of work for them were extremely unhealthy, and they they ended to work many hours in factories and mines. So I would like to end this video with a quote from the book Hard Times of Charles Dickens. It was a town of machinery and tall chimneys, out of which interminable serpents of smoke trailed themselves forever and ever, and never got uncoiled. This quote describes perfectly the moment where we can find the Victorian Age and the industry in especially. Okay, thank you everyone, and I hope everything was clear. And of course, this is a really brief summary of all the things that happened in the Victorian Age. So if you have any question, please don't hesitate and put a comment below here, below this video, or send me a message. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. Bye.